So you can participate in what I'm going to offer or not. It's just fine either way. And feel free to modify, if there's something that I'm leading that isn't particularly useful or helpful for your body. Just skip it or do something different. That's really just fine. That giving the body as much attention, as much kind attention, as we try to do with our mind and our thoughts, that's what we're accessing, that's what we're practicing. And practicing turning our attention toward what might be difficult and toward ourselves. There's plenty going on out there. How we can find refuge within so that we can act skillfully and compassionately. So as you're sitting here, just close your eyes for a moment and tune in to your bodies. Maybe roll your shoulders backwards. You can do it quite slowly and see how this feels. And then rolling them forward. And then just resting a minute. Because we can't see with our eyes inside our body, we have to use a different way of sensing. And that way turns out to be very much worth cultivating. So just notice your body, saying hello to it. Good evening, thank you for getting me here. To drop from our heads into our body, a fast way to do it is to be very aware of the surface you're sitting on. Riding the exhale like you're taking the escalator down to your seat. And notice the micro movements. You might be breathing a little more deeply. You might notice little places that you let go, or that let go on their own. And then wiggling your toes a little bit. That helps bring attention down to the feet. And just rolling the feet around a little bit, both directions. There are body scans where you take your time with this process. And then there's a body sweep where you move a little more quickly. So imagine that you're kind of inhabiting your toes, or that your attention is inhabiting your toes. And then moving along the arch of your foot, the top of your foot, being aware of your heel. And pausing for a moment at the heel and being aware of the rest of your body, feeling the soft touch of your clothing. Maybe you have fuzzy socks on that you're aware of. noticing whether you got to the heel from the toes on the outside of your body, like did you follow the skin of your body, or did you follow the bones, or did you follow both? It doesn't matter at all. It's just interesting to see what you follow, or you might follow the blood, or you might follow some other system. And from your heels, you know you've got those ankle bones on both sides, coming up to the knees, change of direction at the knees, up to the thighs. Just being aware of your legs, of yourself sitting on the chair, on the pew. Rising up through the torso. Being aware of the shoulders. Down to the elbows. Down to the fingers, to the fingernails. Back up through your palms. Through your arms to your shoulders. Noticing how when we do a sweep instead of a scan, that it can be take a lot of concentration. Either way. And it's good to thank the body as you go along. You know that we have hands that work. We take so much for granted. It's crazy. We have breath. Coming up into the neck, into the head, into the top of the head. And slowly coming into standing if you feel like it. And how this is different. You can move out in the aisles if you want more space. How this is different than sitting. Like we're the great verticals here, held by the horizontals of the earth and the sky. Imagining like trees, we have roots that go into the ground. And above us, we extend right into the stars, to that fabulous moon, to the sky. And then rotating your hips in one direction. Just very slowly. They can be wide circles. They can be small circles. And then reverse direction. And then pause. Might want to bend your knees just a little bit and straighten them again. It's fine to wiggle. You know, wiggling, you don't know everything that wiggling does. It's probably incredibly beneficial. And then tipping your left ear toward your left shoulder. Just very easefully, and then your chin toward your chest, and then your right ear toward your right shoulder. Noticing things, micro movements in the rest of your body. Then going back again, chin toward chest and left ear toward left shoulder. And let's do this once more. And then coming to center again. Putting one hand, one palm over the other, about 2 inches below your navel, the center of energy in your body, the sea of qi. The second chakra, the dantian, has a lot of names and a lot of different traditions. Everybody recognizes that this is the center of ourselves. Just to rest there, to feel that, to turn toward it. And then on an inhale, slowly lift both your arms with your palms toward the ceiling. And your third finger's extended toward the ceiling. Turning your head to the left, looking at that left finger, and then exhale to center. Inhale to the right, exhale to the center, and continue this for a bit in your own time. And then slowly lowering your arms, coming back into Wu Qi position. On an inhale, expanding. And on an exhale, taking back in. Keep doing this with your own breath in your own time. And then resting again in Wu Qi position. And let's do something quite different. Let's shake everything for just a minute. Kind of fun. And then come back into Wu Qi. Thinking of one thing about your body that you're really grateful for. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanne. Sitting here with the earth supporting you. Resting here with whatever's present. Nothing to do or to get rid of or to change. Simply resting. Allowing life to unfold. Mind like the sky, no edges, no limits, just open and spacious. The ground of the mind unchanging, not going or not coming. Vast as the night sky. All perceptions or images or memories or sensations arising and passing within this open, aware, intimate knowing. No inside, no outside, no boundaries or separation. Just points of sensations appearing and disappearing in the open sky-like spaciousness of mind. No inside, no outside, no boundaries or separation, just points of sensations appearing and disappearing in the open sky-like spaciousness of mind. Whatever benefits we've received from our practice here, known and unknown, may those be of benefit for the well-being, the happiness, and the freedom of all beings everywhere. The title of tonight's talk is Keep Calmly Knowing Change. When I first heard those 4 words on a retreat many years ago, I wrote them down on a Post-it note and I put it up on the lamp on my desk. And over the years, the note keeps falling off with the changing nature of stickiness. And I keep posting it back up there again, which is okay, because every time I put it back up, I reread it. Keep calmly knowing change. And you may know that historically this 4-word phrase was coined by a Buddhist scholar, Bhikkhu Analayo, years ago when he was seeking a way in which to summarize the teachings of the Satipatthana Sutta, which in detail describes the process for establishing the foundations of mindfulness. So this phrase, keep calmly knowing change, is a kind of a shorthand formula for following the sutta's explicit instructions on practicing mindfulness. It might also be true that this phrase has multiple meanings for you. If you're familiar with it, it points to other teachings that are interwoven, interrelated, and maybe a kind of quiet awareness. This phrase can allow us to drop into that. So I thought what I would do is just look at this phrase in terms of each of those words and some possible ways in which to understand them. And I'm going to weave some interrelated teachings into that, and no doubt others will pop up for you too, because it's such a woven tapestry, the teachings. And as always, see what rings true for you, what speaks to you, what resonates with you, what helps you see or understand and supports you, and let the rest of it go. You might also note what questions arise. If we have some time at the end, we'll take a look at those. Take a minute right now to reflect on, for yourself, in this moment, what is your experience of keeping calmly knowing change? Just check in internally. So with a lot of radical shifts happening externally, and maybe internally for you as well, how is it to keep calmly knowing change? Then most of us have waves. At times we're coping okay, we're doing all right, we are being with the waves of change, a shift in world order, the shock of a job loss, a disintegrating or changing relationship, or the death of a beloved one. And other times we drift into a kind of numbness, and we have a tendency to turn away from anything we sense that is distressing, that is frightening, repulsive. And our challenge here might be to be cognizant of that reaction and see the turning away, see it with both some compassion and some strength. And I think of these 4 words, keep calmly knowing change, as inviting us into a relationship with what is, whether it's despair or enthusiasm, and to be in that relationship with resiliency and some ease. So if we start and take a look at each of these 4 words, keep, what was Bhikkhu Analaya's intention in putting these specific 4 words together to summarize the Satipatthana Sutta? And keep, of course, has a wide variety of meanings, but in this context, the ones that we want to pay attention to, I think, are to take care of, to tend, to honor. And keep implies a sense of diligence around those, but also a sense of curiosity. To keep asking, what's this? So it's both an inquisitive attention and a willingness to sit with whatever's here. Discomfort or defensiveness or shutting down or dismissiveness. And here's where another teaching interweaves with this word keep, and that's the paramis, or the perfections. And there's 6 or 10 or other numbers of them depending on the tradition that you're looking at. But the paramis are basically qualities that are the essence of our true nature. So whether you call this particular perfection diligence or joyous effort, what matters here is the words, which teaching resonates for you, which word is enlivening, speaks to you. So joyous effort, enthusiastic diligence. To keep is to continue asking with curiosity, what's this? What is this? I see that question in my puppy's expression whenever she hears a sound that's unfamiliar and she tilts her head to ask, what's this? What is this? So to keep means that we're using diligence to create some space to meet whatever feelings are coming up, heartache, anger, grief, shame or confusion, or joy. And sometimes from this grounded place of tending, continuing to notice, we begin to open to some compassion for our experience and for the perspective of another. And speaking of compassion, another interrelated teaching here is the 4 Brahma Viharas, or the divine abodes of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. So In the simplest forms, the Brahma-viharas are attitudes that we experience every day. And just to keep with the puppy example, if you see a small puppy, often that evokes some kind of friendliness, some sort of feeling of goodwill. If the puppy gets hurt, we feel compassion, a sense of caring, and a wish that that puppy not suffer. And if he's frolicking around, we may feel appreciative joy because we delight in the happiness that we can see that the dog feels. David and I watch our puppy off leash in a meadow every day, bounding and leaping. There's just so much joy in that body. And when she's overeager to run after a squirrel and then deflated when she can't catch it, we can feel the Brahma-vihara of equanimity. Clearly loving the dog with a stability that keeps us from becoming greatly elated or distressed by its ups and downs. So to keep, to tend is to care for, and it's not some strict adherence or injunction to diligence, but it's to remember how to fall into awareness. Keep calmly knowing change. Calmly. The embodiment of some composure, some degree of equanimity. And it means a kind of noticing that's not too tight and not too loose, just a steady awareness. And it doesn't mean there's the absence. It doesn't mean there's not joy, there's not anger. It's just that we are noticing those waves with a kind of steadiness. No, calmly isn't hasty or impetuous. It's steadfast. We might also consider that calm seeing is clarity. We're looking with clear seeing. We're not turning away from, we're just noticing. It's like this now. So calmly implies patience as well, a willingness to be with whatever's here. And patience, as you may know, is one of the 10 perfections. And it might also be considered the movement from the second noble truth, suffering, there is suffering that comes from grasping, to the third noble truth, which is peace is possible right now. So calm, patience, a willingness to be with, experience something just as it is. And Thich Nhat Hanh says it like this in one of his instructions: breathing in, I calm body and mind. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is the only moment. Maybe you have or enjoy looking at images of the Buddha or Kuan Yin. In that seated posture, there is a strong feeling for me of calm, of compassion. And when the mind-body is calm, we are far less likely to be blown about by the 8 worldly winds: praise, blame, success, failure, pleasure, pain, fame, disrepute. Wendell Berry has a poem that you probably have heard that speaks of calm. So if you'd like to feel the calm of his words, maybe close your eyes to listen to this. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Keep calmly knowing change. Knowing. Maybe an invitation to investigate or to remember that which we've temporarily forgotten, or that which has become split apart. Knowing stands for clear comprehension. It's again that direct experiential awareness of what's happening to the body, mind, as it occurs. We contemplate internally, externally, what's arising, what's passing away. And knowing might also be to remember, begin again. A new year, begin anew. The basic truth is that each of us comes into this world with wisdom, with intuition, and with qualities of kindness and compassion, our Buddha nature, if you will. But whenever we forget this truth, it's because these bright, radiant, sun-like qualities are temporarily covered over by clouds of attachment, or aversion, or confusion. So can we keep in mind, can we know our own generosity, our own goodness? Someone once said you might imagine knowing to be like the neck of an elephant. An elephant, when it looks around, turns not just its head, but its whole body. Its whole body must turn to look. So we could do the same. We could turn our whole body to give full attention to the matter at hand. And that brings us to the fourth, final word, change. Keep calmly knowing change. Change, of course, points to impermanence. It's the realization that all things are in a constant state of arising and passing away. And we know the truth of impermanence, cognitively at least, that no time in history, in geology, in biology, in this body, is without change. Everything is in a constant state of continuous motion. And yet, as human beings, we share a tendency to scramble for certainty whenever we realize that everything around us is in flux. And in difficult times, the stress of trying to find solid ground, something predictable to stand on, seems to intensify. Maybe you've noticed that lately. But our attempts to try to find lasting security are at odds with the fact that we're part of a dynamic system in which everything is in a process. And it's not the impermanence that causes suffering, it's our resistance to fundamental uncertainty that causes our suffering. We're attached to wanting things to be a particular way. Pema Chodron calls this attachment, being hooked by things, wanting things to stay the way they are if they're good, and wanting them to change if they're not. So the question is, how can we relax and have a genuine relationship with fundamental uncertainty, the groundlessness of being human? How do we live wholeheartedly in the face of impermanence, knowing that one day we're going to die? How do we make friends with change, with unpredictability and uncertainty? One way to do this might be to notice when the mind wants to categorize, or wants simplicity, or wants an answer. Is it possible to practice allowing complexity at that moment? No answer, no simplicity, perhaps. And here is another related teaching that can support living with groundlessness, and that's the 5 remembrances, because they speak directly to us about change and impermanence. And again, if you'd like to sit back and just breathe, soften, and allow these words to land gently. I am of the nature to grow old. There's no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. I have not gone beyond injury or illness. I am of the nature to die. There's no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There's no way to escape being separated from them. My actions are my only true belonging. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My thoughts, words, and actions are the ground upon which I stand. Breathing. Noticing what's arising now with your thoughts, feelings, the sensations in the body. So we can practice with these 5 remembrances because they remind us of what's true. And they can support us in calmly knowing change. And another great teacher of change is nature. So whether you watch clouds or sunsets or your pets or earthworms or trees, stars, snowfall, the nature within and the nature outside of us are very much the same. They live in mutual relationship. And maybe you've had the experience of an experience with nature that evoked wonder or awe or amazement. And in those moments, there's a sense that the self is no longer at the center. We're able to see the small self in the context of the huge whole. because wonder and awe can quiet the ego self. And interestingly, awe doesn't diminish with the experience of awe. The self continually grows quieter, and curiosity has a tendency to grow. So we've talked before about concepts like forest bathing, going out into the woods for a couple of hours. Lots of research supports that for well-being on multiple levels, physiologically, psychologically. Keep calmly knowing change. And another experience of change is, some might call it epiphany, a kind of a sudden awakening that can happen anytime, anywhere. Here's how Thomas Merton, who was an American monk and a writer, poet, described his own epiphany. At the corner of 4th and Walnut, in the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all these people. That they were mine and I theirs, that we could not be alien to one another even though we were total strangers. It was like waking from a dream of separateness, of self-isolation, this sense of liberation from an illusory difference that was such a relief and just such a joy to me that I almost laughed out loud. As if the sorrows and the stupidities of the human condition could overwhelm me, now I realized what we all are. If only everybody could realize this, but it cannot be explained. There is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun. Then it was as if I suddenly saw the secret beauty of their hearts, the core of reality. If only they could see themselves as they really are, if only we could see each other that way all the time, there would be no more need for war, hatred, greed, or cruelty. I suppose the big problem would be that we would all just fall down and worship each other. Keep calmly knowing change. A Buddhist teacher, Eric Kolvig, offered this summary of keep calmly knowing change. Here's what he said. Recognize reality directly. Rest in that. Remove all doubt. Roam freely like a happy dog. Recognize reality directly. Rest in that. Remove all doubt. Roam freely like a happy dog. So I'll close with a dedication of merit. May whatever benefits we've received from our practices and actions, known and unknown, may those be a benefit for the happiness, for the well-being, and the freedom of all beings everywhere.